Welcome to Fishing Without Bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations, where we help people replace a mind of uncertainty with a mind of knowledge, where we ask people to make their choices on facts and not on beliefs. And we are continuing our conversation with our good friend Katie, who describes her preparation, training, and participation in the Athena project, which consisted of a 45-mile hike up Mount Zion and her bonding with other cancer survivor. And Katie, now that you have rebooted yourself and re-energized yourself and refocused, I want to hear more about, and I'm sure our listeners would like to hear more about this 45-mile hike.
I actually, the organization that I hooked up with was the Project Athena Foundation, and I had a friend who had been through cancer, had introduced me to it. And what they do is they help individuals such as myself who are going through some sort of health issue um, go on these amazing hikes, and they do various locations throughout the United States, like Florida. They do one in the Keys in Florida. There's, the Zion. There's the Grand Canyon. There's a few places just throughout the U.S. where you go on these adventures, and they pay for you to go, and you just kind of feel like you're reclaiming part of your badassery.
I like that term. So tell us more about the Athena project.
It's great. Like the with my group there was I think there were 6, they call them Athenas or Zeuses, and they are like we feel very special. They make us feel very special. We get a different color shirt, and the rest of the group all fundraised to go on these particular hikes, and part of their fundraising goes to covering our expenses. So we get to go on this amazing adventure for free, which is just super cool. And they offer, they have a training plan for us. We get a coach. We get a little group, like a Facebook group.
Tell us about the train. Tell us about the application process.
It was so for me, it was filled it out, like explain like what your health setback was, what you like to do, a little bit about yourself, and then it was a phone call. It was an interview. Actually took it one evening I was working the Pens game, and I got the call for the interview, and just kind of getting to know you. And I was very excited as I am, and they're like, "We like your attitude," and they were like, "We're gonna bring you on for Zion," and I was like, "Yes!" It was, and it this whole thing was really hilarious because when I first told my family I was doing this, they were like, "Okay, she's not really gonna do this," and then it was like, "Oh no, she's gonna do this. Can she do it?" Like my mom went through a lot of stages of like, "Oh boy, oh you're gonna do this, really?"
So tell us about the training.
It was 5 to 6 days a week of very strenuous training. Like we had to do hours on walking up and down stairs with our pack, or we're hiking for 6, 7, 8 hours, or yeah, it was wild. Or kind of working into that. And there's also some other, we're strengthening our ankles and jumping rope. And I was at that point, it was really funny because a bulk of this training came when I was traveling and doing photography. So there were points where trying to find like, I got to use the stairs of this hotel for the next how many hours up and down the stairs.
So this was a training regimen.
Yeah, oh yeah. And
it was outlined.
Oh yeah, great. Thankfully, because I am very good. If you tell me how to do things, like if you're coaching me and you're like, I need you to do like sprints or whatever, I'm all in. If you were like, maybe you should just, I should just go run, I'm like, I don't understand. Why am I running? Like I work much better with a coach.
So you can follow good orderly direction.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us about your coach.
Oh, so we had a couple different coaches on this, and our last one was his name was Eric, and he was just making sure checking in with us because we were tracking our workouts. I used an Apple Watch to track my workout, and it would upload. We were using a specific program, and it would upload my information. I would start the workout, and then he would know like how long it took me to, or how many calories, not calories, but like how many, like how hard I was working at it, with looking at my heart rate, and like making sure that we were completing the workouts that were assigned us.
I'm assuming that you would have had to have a physical, a good bill of health before you started this.
Yes, my oncologist had to sign off on this, and she was like, "You can do it." I was like, "Thank you."
Okay. So you were tell us about some of the members. You hiked with a group?
Yeah, it was great. It was, all so supportive. All they loved talking to us and hearing our stories, and because not all of them were necessarily, um, connected to somebody who it was interesting 'cause most of our, like, the Athenas were breast cancer and
Mhm.
another kind a couple other kinds of cancers, in our group, and they were interested in our stories and learning more about us.
You had a guide?
Yes, we had a couple folks that went with us. They were in the front and the back, making sure so we weren't, they knew what point we had to be at what location and what kind of pace we had to be on. And they were very experienced, like when we needed to take a break to eat.
So how long was the hike?
We started each day. We ate breakfast at 1:30 in the morning. 2 a.m. we were on the vans. We started the hike each day at 3:30 in the morning. Day one was 3:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and day two was 3:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m.
And you camped?
We had a place to stay in between that had it was like glamping.
Oh, okay.
So we had real showers and
Yeah,
toilets.
so tell us some of the stories of other people. Tell me of some of the things that you shared because it's the singleness of your purpose that bound you together.
Yeah, I was I honestly, I when I went into it, I wasn't sure, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sure I'll make friends. This'll be okay." And the way we bonded from the minute we all started hanging out was great, and just like the support and just you know, us being able to tell our stories and have folks genuinely listening was amazing. And, we were cheering each other on because some of us, not everybody did as well. Maybe they ended up with some pain in their knees because it's no matter how you train, it's nothing like being out there. And so it's cheering each other and like working each other through it.
So you would all share it in a common peril.
Yeah, and I brought show and tell because
Yes.
I do that. So one of the cool things I thought that they did was each day you'd get a carabiner, and on your carabiner is the name of a couple other folks who were on the trip.
Oh,
And I have Sherry, and then the first day, and Cheryl was my second day. So
yeah.
essentially, you're kind of carrying each other with you, and like I still can carry them with me now, and so it's not just about you; it's the whole group. And so this is I thought this was one of the coolest takeaways from it
Wow.
was that. You wanna see my leaves? We got at the end we got leaves for that we
Athena.
completed.
Yeah, there you
Woo.
go. Wow.
So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that. And then we get you get these necklaces and it says like Zion on the back of it. And each time you complete one of these hikes, you get another one of these neat little necklaces.
So you can do this again in the future?
Yes. So it won't be covered this time because
Hmm.
you get to do it once like that. And but I already signed up
Okay.
for Sedona. It's a 50+ mile hike over 2 days in Sedona.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. And so I'll have to fundraise for that one. But I think I can do it.
And training will begin.
Oh gosh. I think not probably right after the first year, if not next couple,
Is
maybe
it
December.
planned? Is it planned for a specific time, date?
Yes, I think it's May. It's like the third week, or it's like around the 20 something in May. So yeah, we will probably start training in December, if not
So
January the
you're
latest.
fundraising. Do you have a GoFundMe?
They give you we'll have a fundraising like page on their website that they'll set up, so I can start raising money to do this.
Well, please let us know about that so
Oh,
we can put a link up on our website.
I appreciate that. Thank
Oh,
you.
absolutely. Yes, you're one of our special people, Katie.
Yay!
So for those who maybe have been just recently diagnosed with cancer, what would be your suggestion to them to do first?
I think one of your first things when you're diagnosed, especially for the first time, you're like, oh boy, it's take a second to breathe. It's overwhelming. It's we're all like that. We like I feel like I look like an expert at this point because I've just been through so much, and you come out of it and you're like, "Oh, look, she looks fine. She's doing all these things." And you go back to normal and everything's cool, and it's like, "No. No. This is just the outside view. There's a lot of work behind the scenes and a lot of work from day 1, and just it's okay. Be gentle with yourself."
Well, you've heard of the term 20-year overnight success.
Mhm.
And after they sit back, take a breath, and deal with what's right in front of them, where do they go next?
I think it's if it's available, finding a support group. I was very hesitant to join a support group because I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna talk to other people who are dealing with this. I can," I wanna kinda just stay in my world and keep, my little tight circle of, and I think, but once I joined as support groups, because it doesn't necessarily have to be just one. You can do
Right.
more than one if you find you fit in multiples, because you get different things from different groups. But I think the support and just having people who really get it is huge in this.
What do you suggest to people who will be dealing with the uncertainty, dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, dealing with apprehension?
Don't hesitate to tell your doctors. I think that's a big thing too, is because we don't want to. Um, it's you do it's this weird game where you're like kind of like on a line of like, I don't want people to be worried about me that I'm going to self harm, or that I such a bleak outlook on life, but like you also don't want to not tell people, so you like kind of figure out, you're like, okay, I don't want to look this way, but I don't, I need to tell somebody, but like your doctors know, and this is, you're not the first patient, and they understand.
What would your suggestions be to loved ones of a cancer diagnosed individual, how they can encourage them and support without being smothering?
I think when like your friends and family, I think a big thing for me is just being there, and like that was different for different friends. Like I had the certain group of friends that were sending me funny videos every day or gifts, like that was what they did. I had friends that took me to get coffee or for lunch, or I had friends who would send me food gift cards, like, and then I had friends that I knew I could vent to, and no one no one tried to be everything, if that makes sense. And I think that was so important. It was like, okay, this is what I do. I got this. And like everybody had their roles, and I think that was important, and not it being understand. I think like friends and family also being understanding that like if you don't hear from me, it's nothing personal.
Mm,
It could be like I'm really bad at getting back to folks, especially with like so much going on.
sure.
And you're like, "Oh shoot." And like I could not talk to people for months and be like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice you messaged me." On
Yeah.
especially like on Facebook Messenger or something. And they're like, "It's okay." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Because like
Yes.
that makes nothing makes me feel worse than someone reaching out and me not knowing it.
So, how did you deal with that concern of your mother's
With a hike or overall?
overall from the beginning?
From the beginning, it was rough because the particular situation was when my mom was diagnosed in March of 2019, and I was her caregiver.
Mhm.
And then when tables, you know, when it turned and it was my turn, she wasn't able to be there in the capacity she wanted to be in, because my mom is a pediatric ER nurse.
Ah,
And at the point where I started chemo and I got sick was when COVID kicked in, and I couldn't see her because I knew there was a risk, and she knew there was a risk, and it was so hard for her. Like it was so hard for her, and I knew, and she was just trying to be there for me without physically being there and wanting to take care of me. Um, a lot of reassuring that I was okay and things were okay, and a lot of check-ins, and um, just trying my best to let her know that I was going to be okay. And I was like, "You did this, I'm going to do it too."
well, keeping a loved one informed and having them have a mind of knowledge.
Yeah. She knew, what I was dealing with from her firsthand experience, and I think that made it worse because she knew how bad it was. Like, she actually knew.
So, how do you think that the attitude of gratitude shaped your recovery?
I think I think it really was just, like, it made it easier for me in that I knew that the support was it wasn't a guarantee, but I was receiving it, and it was great, and I was grateful for it.
So, what we're going to do is hopefully we'll get the link to uh, fundraise for you. We'd like to get a link to the Athena
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Foundation. So, what we try to do is provide resources to people because most people they don't know that I had no idea these things existed.
Oh, I didn't know before either, and there's numerous groups.
How was it brought to your attention, Katie?
With the I had a friend that had done it and, had mentioned it, and I was like, "Ooh," and then I bookmarked it because I was
Yeah.
like, "I wanna do this in the future when I feel I can do it."
Okay. So, if there's a parting message that you'd like to give to our audience, our listeners, what would it be, Katie?
Gosh, I would say just be going back to your kindness, being kind to one another and being patient because you don't know what somebody else is going through and you don't know when you're going to be in the situation that they're in.
Absolutely. And with that, we'll give our free prescription at the end of every podcast. Fruits, nuts, and vegetables, unplug your television and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we suggest that you fish without bait. Do a kindness for yourself and do a kindness for another. Forgive yourself and forgive another. Till all are free, none are free. Namaste, my friends.
If you're interested in flying the colors of fishing without bait, click the shop icon on our website. We have clothing, mugs, cell phone cases, and so much more. Show the world that you fish without bait.